I will now take any questions.
Il y a un ordre pour les questions. Je propose à Rim Montas de Politico de poser la deuxième question. Allez-y. Là où ça marche, allô.
Alors regardez, on va vous donner la parole, je crois, juste après.
I believe there is an order for the questions.
Je vous promets que vous poserez votre question.
You will be able to ask your question, I promise you.
D'accord.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le Président. Merci d'être venu.
President, thank you very much for coming to Beirut.
Vous avez parlé d'un besoin de refondation.
You spoke about a need for a new political order in Lebanon. And the Lebanese have called for a change in constitution here. Could you be clearer? What have you asked from the political leaders when you sat down around the table with them today? You said that you will also be back on the 1st of September. Do you expect the complete political overhaul to be complete by the time you come back? Because the Lebanese people have been calling for this for a year now, but we haven't been able to get there. I want to send a clear message that you should not give up just because things are taking a long time. And here, when you are standing on the threshold of a great chasm, then you need to sometimes have the faith to take that leap. Now, it's not as up to me to tell you whether you should change the constitution or whether you need to change your political scheme one way or another. I am just a French president. What I want to say is that we have been speaking with the political leaders for the past few months now, and I have just been able here to state the facts that there have been blackouts day in, day out, that there are supplies, food supplies that aren't making it to the people. This is an economy based entirely on imports and exports, but that is currently collapsing. And the central bank isn't there to support the system. So there are short-term reforms that are needed. Fight against corruption, reform the energy sector, the electricity sector, reform the customs sector, overhaul the logistics sector. These are the key reforms that need to be done in the very short term. But then, on top of that, the central bank also needs to be audited, because until the central banking system is not overhauled and reformed, then the international monetary funds, the world banks of this, the world that we live in, won't be there to provide assistance. Currently, there is, unfortunately, a sense of silence in the political debate, but the only people who are truly suffering from this inaction are the Lebanese people. I hope that, in time, the Lebanese people will find it in their power to come up with a political system, to be able to choose a political system that will better serve them. It is not up to me to create the system for you. Because once you have central bank reform, then you'll be able to truly undertake work with the IMF, because you are faced with an emergency crisis. In a few months, you will run out of fuel. You will run out of food. And the reason that you will be faced with these crises, these emergency situations, is because you have political leaders who have failed to act. And this is why these political leaders need to act in all humility, but they need to take responsibility for their actions. Now, I just wanted to reiterate that France will be here to provide support. We will continue to organize meetings, international meetings, multilateral meetings, to find a solution. We'll continue to act so that the Lebanese leaders will be able to fully act in the best interests of the Lebanese people. President, firstly, thank you very much for your kind words for the French people. Thank you. My question, is France ready to work with Lebanon as part of an ad hoc investigative committee? If so, how will you do that? And how will France work on coming up with a reconstruction fund? I spoke with both the President and the Prime Minister on those topics. Technical cooperation has already been provided, and I think that an investigative unit is essential. This is why that I called on the Lebanese authorities to give in to that request, which is a legitimate request for a true analysis of the situation. There are French experts who have been provided, but also international experts who will be required. And that group needs to be pushed ahead, and it needs to be done in full transparency. I think it is essential. In terms of short-term emergency relief, this needs to be overseen, at least it is our wish, by the United Nations. We saw one of the UN representatives at the port. France will also provide technical and expert support. That said, I think the United Nations should be designated as being the coordinating body for emergency relief. They can stand as an intermediary between public institutions, private institutions, NGOs, and they will also be able to work as an intermediary with the World Bank. And I think that is the way that we'll be able to properly construct an architecture around this emergency relief. France is willing to work with the World Bank and the IMF on that. If there are any further questions, please come over and join the queue. I have a short question, but your answer may be quite long. I'm sorry for that. To what extent is France willing to encourage Lebanese leaders to act? Will you go as far as to bring in sanctions for those political leaders who will not change? Nothing is to be excluded, but things need to be done in the right order. We will start with meetings. I think we can face facts. There are a number of promises made by Lebanon that have not been upheld. We need to be honest, direct, sincere, and the coming weeks we will work at making headway. And we will try and put pressure on those meetings to continue to make progress. Will there be any sanctions? Nothing is to be ruled out. What I would like to say is that we will focus on those mechanisms at our disposal that have proved to be efficient in the past. And it needs to be part of a process. Now, for the time being, nothing is to be ruled out, but in terms of priority action, will we bring in sanctions? No. But it is not to be ruled out.
Bonsoir, Monsieur le Président. C'est Roda Chedi de la LBCI TV.
I'm from LBCI TV and from An-Hadari. On behalf of my colleagues, I have two questions. First, this morning you spoke about a change of the system, and that's what you said to the people. And then this afternoon, you met with all of the representatives from the political parties. And you said that a cabinet of national unity should be created to be able to deal with the current crisis, the financial economic crisis. What change were you referring to? And in terms of the international investigation into the explosion in the port, we have heard that there are people who are calling for such an investigation. And do you support that? So, I will quite happily take as many questions as possible as long as you listen to the answers to the questions that I've just asked before. So, for example, I've already answered your second question. I completely support an international investigation. For your first question, it is not up to me to determine who is legitimate and not. My role, and this is something that I said in the street to the Lebanese people, and I said exactly the same thing to the Prime Minister, to the President, to all the political forces. I also met with other political factions. I also met with members of civil society, people who aren't actually part of the official government because they weren't elected. Now, it is not up to me to say exactly how Lebanese politics are to be reformed. I'm just here to say that Lebanon needs reform. It is up to you to write your future. And France is to be there as a friend, to hold you up to the task that is set before you. It is up to us to encourage you, to show you that you can have hope in civil society. It is up to us to help you write your own history. But it is not up to me, a French president, to write that history, that future for you.
Monsieur le Président, j'ai deux questions, si vous permettez.
Mr. President, I have two questions. You met with political leaders from Lebanon. Even with Hezbollah, Hezbollah was sitting around the negotiation table. Are you trying to send out a message that is different to the United States? Are you trying to say that Hezbollah is a political figure in Lebanon? My second question, in light of what Hassan Diab said in his declaration only a few days ago, he said that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jean-Yves Le Drian, did not have the right information about reforms that are currently underway. For the first question, I'm not sending a message to anyone. I think one of Lebanon's major issues is that there are too many people who are trying to have their say. I want to say that it is up to Lebanon to look after its own people. Currently, there are political parties. I didn't elect them. I didn't set the guest list for our meetings. These are people that you elected. I can't just turn the other way because I don't want to work with one political party as opposed to another. Granted, I don't agree with certain political ideas, but I'm not Lebanese. I am just saying that we have to work with everyone who's been elected, and therefore they should sit down around the negotiation table because it is their right. They represent the Lebanese people, and if they want to serve Lebanon, if they want to improve Lebanon, then they should feed the Lebanese people. They should be there to provide electricity, to provide energy. They shouldn't be there under the control of some foreign power. Now, I don't want to necessarily comment on hearsay that you mentioned in your second question, but I would say that my foreign minister is actually quite well informed of reform that is currently underway in Lebanon. President, you spoke of Hezbollah, but I would like to take things a little further. It is a hegemonic party. There is a party that dominates politics in Lebanon. I want your input into how can we come up with a pact, a new political pact, where you have one party governed by an illegitimate armed force, and on the other hand, another political party with a legitimate armed force. On one hand, you have a political party under the control of Iran, Syria. So my question, will you go and speak with Iran? Will you mediate with them? How can we solve this problem? Because this is the problem of Lebanon. In terms of mediation with Iran, I have tried for better or worse, as you are well aware. So I'm quite aware of the situation, and I agree with what you have just said about the very realness of the situation that we're in. But here I'm looking at your current political system, and this is the way your political system is organized, and I cannot just pretend that it is different. They are a political party, and they are in power, or they have power in your current political system. So my question is, how can we rebuild Lebanese unity? How can we get rid of this time where private interests are taking over political industries? Coming up with a Lebanese army that doesn't answer for some foreign power, that is part of the reform that you need. But this reform needs to be done with the Lebanese people. And my role, our role, is to support you by providing aid, providing assistance. But we won't be able to just wave a magic wand, because you have a political party that has been an elected political party for the past 15 years, and it would be pure folly of my part to ignore their presence in your political structure. And when I sit down to a political negotiating table, I want everyone to be there, because they answer for the Lebanese people. Now, I don't have the perfect answer. If someone comes to you and says, I've got a perfect solution, they're just there, and they just want to try and replace the current system with a new hegemony. They don't have a true solution, because the current situation is It's very complex. It's too murky.
La caractéristique d'une crise.
But it is the perfect characteristic of a crisis waiting to happen. And we are seeing the results of that crisis.
La meilleure possible pour le peuple.
What you need, what Lebanon needs, is the best possible political system for your people. And I know it's no easy task.
Deux petites questions. La première.
Two questions.
Comme j'ai accepté une rallonge et que j'ai...
Just very quickly. Now, because I'm already over time, I will only take one question per person. So you said change the system. You said that France wants to come up with a political solution for Lebanon. You said that you need to change the regime under the support of France. No, sorry, one question only. You can't ask a second question. So for your question, there is no French solution to the situation. There is a method that we suggest, short-term reform for the benefit of Lebanese people, and the necessary conditions for a political offer, political solution to come out of the woodworks in the future. Now, I've already spoken at great length on that, but for that you need the people to drive that forward. You need to put pressure on your political leaders. But you can't ask me to stand in for your political parties, for your elected officials, because that would not be a solution. I wouldn't be doing you service.
Monsieur le Président, c'est Joyce Akiki de la MTV.
This is Joyce.
Les responsables libanais ont tué le peuple.
Lebanese officials have killed Lebanese people on the 4th of August. Lebanese leaders are corrupt. You visited the port. You saw it with your own eyes. Did you know that by the stockpile of ammonium, there were fireworks and illegal arms? I don't know what I can say. All I can say really is that trust requires the truth and hard facts. The only information I have is information that has already been disclosed and made public. I have no more than you. What is required is a transparent, open inquiry to avoid that anything may be hidden, and also to avoid any form of doubt. I can't answer your question because I have no more information than you do. What I did see is the extent of the devastation. And all I can say is that hopefully we'll be able to save lives in the future. Do you think that elected officials killed Lebanese people? I'm not going to accuse anyone because I am here saying that you need to have an independent, transparent inquiry. It's not my position to do so. Mr. President, a very quick question. Did you feel that the Lebanese government will support the Cedar Conference reform? I'm not here to tell you what I feel. I'm just here to tell you what I have seen. And I wait to see. April 2018. April 2018. Promises were made, but reforms were not put in place. So what is your message for the Lebanese government? Exactly what I've just said. You need to hold yourselves to account.
Monsieur le Président, le patriarche maronite...
Allez, j'en prends deux dernières.
Two more questions. Two more questions, and then I must go. You've spoken of a new era. But at the same time, you have also met former corrupt presidents, people who have led Lebanon astray. Who should I have met then? I met with the people of Lebanon this morning. And I will answer your question here. And it's a question I've already answered. The current situation is that since October, you have a movement, a popular movement that I have deep respect for. But that has not been translated into political change. And as the French president, it is not up to me to say these elected officials, these were elected officials who were elected through regular elections, they are not legitimate. It is not up to me to say that. What is my responsibility? My responsibility is to help the Lebanese people. I need to speak to the power of truth and facts. I need to speak to say that we need to have an independent, transparent investigation, which will be able to enable us to be able to find out who the guilty parties are. All I'm trying to say here is that France is here to help, but France is not here to act as the Lebanese government. We're not here to take their place. And I've met with other members of civil society, and I can see that there's something afoot here in Lebanon. Something is underway, and it would have been so much easier for me to come to Lebanon and not meet with the elected officials. I could have just come and I could have just spoken with you. But I chose to speak with them face to face because I wanted to tell them I will be back on the 1st of September. And the reason I spoke with them is because you elected them. You elected them. I didn't elect them. You, the Lebanese people, you elected these men and women. So if you want to change the political parties, you need to do so through democratic processes. And this is what I said to them. I can't go and speak to them face to face and then behind their backs accuse them of such and such a crime. I am here before you as the President of the French Republic, and I have acted accordingly. One very last question. You spoke of the popular uprising from the Lebanese people that started in October. Are you calling on a new revolution? Do you feel that France can hold our political parties accountable? I think what is amazing in your questions, and it's also something that came out in the conversations I had with civil society and political parties, it's also something that I heard when I met with so many Lebanese people. A lot of people said, let's go back to the mandate. It's almost as if you were asking me to sign off on a new revolution. No. What I'm hearing is that you want a revolution, but I can't initiate a revolution. It is up to the Lebanese people. What I'm trying to say here is, here, I've been answering your questions. I've been answering questions, and we have a to and fro. You ask a question, I answer it. Now, please, let me answer. What I'm trying to say is that you cannot call on France to flout the sovereignty of your elected officials. I will support Lebanon. I will support the Lebanese people whenever needed. But I will not interfere with Lebanese politics. I will stand there as a friend who wants a better world for you, a better country for you. And that's why solutions need to come from within, not from without. You need to bring about your own economic, social reforms. And you have the power, you have the knowledge to do that. And I will be there to support you. But it is not up to me to tell you exactly what you need to do. I'm not the one to tell you how to do things. The initiative is what we've started today. Ladies and gentlemen, the French president will unfortunately have to leave. Thank you for questions. The political initiative is something that we started today. We called on all political forces in Lebanon, the president, the prime minister, Speaker of the House, to bring about all of the reforms that I mentioned, to focus on an audit process, without which the economy of this nation will collapse, to be able to access the IMF and its funding programs. This is the only way that you will be able to have a national government in the coming months, to be able to get this country back on its own 2 feet, and to be able to ensure that you have a socio-economic structure that will serve the Lebanese people to the best of its ability. Thank you very much.